Lesson 6, ladies and gentlemen, we're getting there. We're getting there. We're going to be using secondary chords while harmonizing. In the last lesson, we used 1, 4, and 5. It was usually, hopefully you found it was pretty straightforward which harmony to use, whether it's a 1 chord, a 4 chord, or a 5 chord, based on the scale degrees that are in the melody. Now we're going to expand our sort of musical harmonization vocabulary by using the secondary chords. The secondary chords are, as you know, everything else in a major scale. A triad's built on scale degrees 2 and 3 and 6 and 7. Okay, we're going to start with the primary chords first. Okay, quick review. All right, the 1, 4, and 5, or 5, 7, are your basic primary triads, and they sound like this. Now, when we're working in the key of C major, you can see the 1, 4, and 5 chords are right here. Okay, 1, 4, and 5, and they're going to sound like this. So the 1, the 4, the 5, okay, or the 5, 7. We're adding that F note up top, okay? Or if I do it in a different voicing, just so they stay in the video frame. All right. Now when I start adding in the secondary chords in the next line, I'm just going to move this a little bit up the screen so you can see it. The 2 chord, minor. The 3 chord is minor. Whatever voicing, it doesn't matter. Whatever inversion. The 6 chord, an A minor. And the 7 chord is diminished. It's the weird sounding one. Okay. There's a lot of overlap, obviously, with the notes in the primary triads. We only have 7 different notes we're using, and we use them all in the primary triads. Now you can see that we're hopefully you can see that we are using the same notes, and there's a lot of overlap. And the first example they're showing you is right here. The chord 2 can be used in place of chord 4 as it shares 2 of the same notes. A 4 chord has FAC. A 2 chord uses DFA. Okay, a 4 chord is built on scale degree 4. A 2 chord built on scale degree 2. But they both share these 2 notes of F and C. So anytime you have a melody that uses F and C, you could use a 4 chord, or you could use a 2 chord to add a different color, okay? And now we're carrying on. Another example, chord 3 or chord 6 can be substituted for chord 1, as they both contain common notes. Notice the example here, they're showing you a 1 chord and a 3 chord, both of which share scale degrees 3 and 5. A 1 chord and a 6 chord both share scale degrees 1 and 3. Okay, so I could take, you know what? Oh Canada, just because it comes to mind. Because it uses those three notes of a 1 chord. 3, 5, 5, 1. Okay, I could use primary chords and go 1, oh, Canada. I can go 1, 5, 5, 1. 1, 5, 5, 1. Okay, for harmonizing. A 1 chord, the O, Canada. And primary chords work beautifully. I could also instead use secondary chords and get a totally different feel. I could start with a 1 chord, oh, and now when I go to the scale degree, when the melody goes to scale degree 5, I can choose to use a 3 chord, because it has scale degree 5. So I can do this, oh, Canada, and then da goes to the 1 chord. Why don't I use the 6? You use scale degree 1, why don't I go to the 6 the 6th chord, O Canada. So I'll go, my chord pattern will be 1, 3, and 6. O Canada. Okay, versus primary chords. O Canada. You can go in many different harmonic paths when you start incorporating these secondary chords. Okay, because you look at the melody, what scale degree it's using, and it can then, from there you have all these different harmonic options. You have the different chords you can use, primary and secondary, to help create some beautiful harmony. All right, now as it says here, secondary chords are just that. They are secondary. Therefore, they should never take over completely from the primary chords, and most pieces will still start on 1 and end with a 5-1 or 5-7-1 perfect cadence. We'll get to cadences much later. But anytime a song ends in 5-1, a 5 chord to a 1 chord, or a 5-7 to a 1, that's often called, it's called a cadence point, and it's often at the end of a musical section, okay, or end of a melody. All right, your activity here. Circle the chord symbols of the secondary chords in this tune below. All you have to do is identify them, okay? You'll note that we are in the key of C major. Okay, we are using C, A minor, D minor, all these different chords in the key of C major. Some of them are primary, some of them are secondary. Your job is to know which ones are the primary chords, which ones are the secondary chords, and simply circle them. Easy, easy stuff. I'll give you, pause the video now, take 30 seconds, identify them, circle them. We'll carry on to the next page. All right, the next part of this lesson basically is a worked example, an example of how you can use secondary chords in the way that you just saw on the previous page. Okay, so using secondary chords, a worked example, an example of how secondary chords can be substituted for primary chords to vary or add interest, harmonic interest, to a piece of music. You're not changing the melody, you are changing the harmonic structure behind it. So we're going to take the basic tune of When the Saints Go Marching In, and what I'm going to do is sing the melody for you, so that way when it comes to adding the harmony on the keyboard, I can do it without having to try and play the melody and do the harmony, and it's easier for me to sing it, so you can get the full picture. All right, we're going to start with just the melody first. All right, and so here we go. Oh, when the saints go marching in, oh, when the saints go marching in, oh, I want to be in that number when the saints go marching in. And there's the melody. Now, the harmonization that happens right next, it's the exact same melody, but all they've done here is put in some chord changes. A C, a G, C, F, C, F, G7, C. So primary chords, 1, 4, and 5. That's it. All right, and I'm going to do this. I'm just going to play the block chords and play them on the downbeats so you can hear them. Okay, and the don't worry about the inversions I use. Whatever. Okay, here we go. Oh, when the saints go marching in, oh, when the saints go marching in, oh, I want to be in that number when the saints go marching in. So, hopefully it sounded relatively pleasing to your ears, aside from the quality of my voice. But other than that, it should have worked, right? The last 4 bars there, even from the quarter rest, when the saints go marching in. That 5-7 chord, that G7 really hopefully creates a lot of dissonance in your ears. It really creates a lot of tension. Marching in, and it feels so good to come back to that C chord, that 1 chord. All right. Now, moving on. The substitutions. When we add the secondary triads, all right, we talked in the last page how a 2/7 chord, a 2 chord, can be substituted for the 4 chord in the second last bar. Okay. Now here they're using what's called a 2/7 chord, or a D minor 7. We haven't talked about adding sevenths to anything other than the 5 chord yet, but they're doing it here. And I'll play it for you just so you can hear how it sounds. It's just going to be a 2 chord, 2, 4, 6, and then the seventh of a 2 chord, which is the tonic. So in the key of C major, 2, 4, 6 is D, F, A, and then a third above that is the tonic C. Okay, you'll hear it as we get towards the bottom here. This D minor 7 chord. Okay. It makes one of the strongest possible progressions of 2/7 to 5/7 to 1. It basically really exaggerates that desire for your ears to return to that 1 chord. Okay, it's basically all it does. It's an added color to the 2 chord. Okay. Now, it says to add more variety, chords 3 and 6 can be employed in bars 3 and 5. Instead of the 1 chord, which was used in the previous example, right? If we just scroll up real quick, you can see it was a 1 chord all the way across. All the way across that top line. Okay. Now what they're doing is they're mixing it up. Okay, starting with a 1 chord, then going to a 3 chord, then going to a 6 chord. Like you saw on the previous page, a 3 and a 6 can be substituted for a 1 chord because they share so many common notes. All right. And then, of course, more variation at the end there with the 2/7 chord. Okay, this does change the character of the tune. Play the chords on the piano so you can hear the effect of these substitutions. And I'm going to do that for you right now. Here we go. Oh, when the saints go marching in. Oh, when the saints go marching in. Oh, I want to be in that number when the saints go marching in. And I just slowed down at the end so you could hopefully hear that movement, that harmonic movement from a 2/7 to a 5/7 to a 1, or a D minor 7 to G7 to C. Now, what did you think? Did that E minor chord, when it popped up, did it throw your ears for a bit of a loop? Right? I mean, you knew you were going to hear a new chord, but hopefully it tweaked your ears in a unique way, and ooh, that was neat how it did that, right? As opposed to the standard, oh, when the saints, and I'll just do this in a rhythmic style, a show 2 style. Oh, when the saints go marching in, oh, when the saints go marching in, right? That's line 1, the original way. The way they did it up top, just a 1 chord all the way to the G. And now when we add the E minor, A minor 7, we're adding a lot more color. Oh, when the saints go marching in. Oh, when the saints go marching in. And it's just a new way to realize this song. A very familiar song. It's an American standard. But there's such a wonderful way to go about reinterpreting the music. When you know the melodies, when you know the notes that are on the page, you are familiar with the notes that are on the page, and the scale degrees that they are based on the key signature, you can figure out new ways of harmonizing them by knowing what notes are in these different secondary chords to really make it different and your own sort of take on it harmonically. All right, we're going to go to the next page and just show you your activity for this lesson. Okay, so with this song, Hey Diddle Diddle, you may recognize the melody, you may not. It may be a variation of a melody you do know, but either way, I'm going to play it for you, and then you're going to, as it says here, harmonize the traditional tune Hey Diddle Diddle using just primary chords with 1 chord per measure. They're specifically laying it out for you. You have to use 1 chord per measure. All right. So in 6/8 time, there are 2 triplets per bar, 2 sets of 3/8 notes, right? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, if you're not familiar with the words, it's hey, if I can find the note. Hey diddle diddle, the cat and the fiddle, the cow jumped over the moon. Then the little dog laughed to see such sport, and the dish ran away with the spoon. Now you may know a different tune for that for those lyrics, but that's the song that's written on the page in front of you. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. Okay, use 1 chord per measure, and use primary chords only. So 1, 4, and 5. And if you want, on a separate piece of paper, you can write out the 1, 4, and 5 chords, so you have them as a bit of a cheat sheet, and then harmonize the tune and use whichever piano accompaniment style you like. Probably a show 2 or a ballad if you want would work. Now show 2 in 6/8, just in case you're interested, generally would be dotted half notes in the left hand. So a 1 chord would be G. Oh, that's pretty thick marker. We don't want that. A 1 chord would be G and D, and they'd be dotted quarter notes. All right? And then you're going to have in the right hand an 8th rest, and then 2 8th note punches on the chord. So a G chord, a 1 chord, you might do something like this. Okay, D, G, B. And you're going to have 2 8th note rhythms like that. Okay, and you do it again. D, 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 D. It'll be sort of an pa kind of a feel. Right? It'll be hey diddle diddle, the cat and the fiddle, etc. Okay, so if you're interested, you can do a show style like that. What I would recommend is before you even get to writing notes on the staff, is to please write out the chords you're going to use. All right, so if you want to use a 1 chord here, it would make sense to use a 1 chord in the first bar because you're writing those B's, right? You know that a B is scale degree 3. Okay, you can even start by doing 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 4, 5. Analyze the melody first. Okay, and then you know that if a scale degree 3 it sits on a 1 chord, so I'm going to write a G because that's a 1 chord, and underneath I can do this scale degree 1 Roman numeral, and then in the next bar I'm going to use obviously a different chord, a chord that works with the note A. Right, and I'm going to carry on that way. Okay, so primary chords only, 1 chord per measure. And that should take you through that tune. As you get to the bottom, you're going to see that you use the same song, this time, again, using, same tune again, but using up to 2 chords per bar, and incorporate some secondary chords. So here, in the first bar, where originally I had done just a 1 chord on the top, right? Hey diddle diddle the, right? I could go to a 3 chord halfway through the bar. Hey diddle diddle the, and carry on from there. Experiment and see what works. Okay, you don't have to have 2 chords per bar for every single bar, but get creative. See what you think might work. Okay, give it a try, give it a go. Let me know if you have any questions. If you're feeling stuck, I'm certainly happy to help. And we'll see you in the next lesson. We have 1 lesson to go in this unit, and then we're done with this one. Okay? Have a good day, guys. Bye.